Hi everybody. I seem to be a bit fuzzy on the old computer screen, but hopefully that'll settle in. Anyway, thanks to those that got in touch and said that I put my video up the other day with no sound, which was really nice of you, because when I did the test on the computer, it worked, but I didn't realize I had to then press another button to make it sync. Anyway, I'm kind of new to this new suite machine. I liked my original editing suite, but as many of you know, my old laptop went during the last solar eclipse. So I had this nice new one, but I'm still figuring out how to make the editing suite work. I've never been very good with technology, though I love it that it can bring me to you guys to chat, to speak, gets me to watch other people that do shows like this. Without technology, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I also kind of come from the Steiner perspective of the Ahriman is infiltrating the technology, which is why I also feel like these kind of shows need to be done, so that even though Ahriman's been infiltrating all the internet and the electronics and the technology, maybe he listens, and maybe he will be able to turn himself around and return back to the divine, because all things come from the divine originally. You know, some things get corrupted, and Ahriman obviously did get corrupted, and he's trying to corrupt you through technology. But that's another show that I will be dealing with in the not too distant future, or look back out through the archive and see the Steiner work that I've put up, or the Steiner writings, the Steiner shows where I discuss a lot of that. Today I wanted to talk about esotericism. I've done shows on esotericism before, but I found some more quotes that I think I missed out last time, so I wanted to put these ones in from the Gurdjieff work. You know, I've discussed before how Gurdjieff says there's the inner side of humanity and the outer side of humanity, a great big group of humanity, but not everybody wants to be part of the what we would call inner teachings, the inner work of developing oneself. Many people like just being their mechanical robots or sheep that just go through life, you know, thinking they're contented, and we all know they're not. But as the Christ says about all this spiritual teaching, this esoteric teaching, it's for those with ears to hear. And I hope you have ears to hear, because otherwise you wouldn't be watching these shows. You must have an inkling towards this. You must feel there's something more to life. You must feel there's an inner teaching, wisdom, knowledge there for you. So I wanted to do some quotes from Gurdjieff. So I'm going to start with, which one am I starting with? In Search of the Miraculous, Ouspensky. So Gurdjieff's been talking to Ouspensky. The inner circle of humanity is called the esoteric. This circle consists of people who have attained the highest development possible for man, each one of whom possesses individuality in the fullest degree. That is to say, an indivisible I, very important that, not an invisible I, an indivisible I, because we have many eyes within us, and different eyes pop up for different situations. Maybe there is an invisible I in us that we're waiting to let pop through. Now I'm wondering, maybe our higher self is invisible because we're not seeing it or connecting with it unless we develop ourselves, and then we can make that connection with the higher self. So maybe that's a little ponder there. So back to the indivisible I. All forms of consciousness possible for man, full control over these states of consciousness, the whole of knowledge possible for man, and a free and an independent will. They cannot perform actions opposed to their understanding, or have an understanding which is not expressed by actions. At the same time, there could be no discords among them, no differences of understanding. Therefore, their activity is entirely coordinated and leads to one common aim without any kind of compulsion, because it is based upon a common and identical understanding. So from In Search of the Miraculous, page 310, that is. What was I going to say? So we're trying to, we want to develop to the fullest degree. That's why we're doing this kind of work. So we've been called towards it. Maybe we've been working on it in past lives, so the teaching's continuing. Maybe this teaching is only for a certain amount of people. You know, as I was saying earlier, those with ears to hear. Maybe only some people started developing their souls when they were children. As Gurdjieff says, our soul is like a little kennel. It's inside us, it's teeny weeny. Whether it develops or not depends on how we progress in our lives, and whether we shut off from it and just follow a robotic, mechanical way of living. And I've said in other shows about how to get to our higher selves, we have to develop our soul and our conscience so that we can hear that higher self talking to us, which is helping us develop to our fullest potential. That's what we want to do. And I was saying earlier about those that don't want to do this kind of work, the exoteric type of people, well, they're not interested in that at the moment, but maybe they will be in another life or in the recurrence of this life again. I was going to do, let me find it. Right, so I'm going to do some Gurdjieff himself from Life is Real, Only Then When I Am, page 77. And for those that think, what a strange title, he's saying that life really is only real, when you're awake, when you're fully developed enough to be able to see what's going on. At the moment, we're all being asleep as we plod through our lives. So life isn't real. It's like a program. It's like a simulation. But if we wake up, we still see the reality of everything, the reality of being. So life is real only then when I am, page 77. The members of the third group, the esoteric, there's three groups, mesoteric, exoteric, and esoteric. And we're aiming to get into the esoteric. So the members of the third group, the esoteric, were to be initiated not only theoretically into all these questions not accessible to the average man, which have been elucidated by me, Gurdjieff, personally owing to my half-century's special searchings, but also practically, and to be introduced to all the means for a real possibility of self-perfecting, but of course only after having been for a long time experimentally tried and verified in quite exceptionally planned circumstances. And I've been talking to people about this lately because so many people want a quick answer. Maybe it's that urgency need of wanting to develop, but there is no quick answers. Well, there are, but they don't help you. You need to work on it yourselves. You need to go and research for yourselves. You need to study for yourselves. You need to ponder for yourselves. But you go and learn from other people, obviously, and get the research and the knowledge that wasn't there. And as I've said in past shows, you know, gain all the knowledge you can, but you need to develop the wisdom as well. And the wisdom can only be developed by yourself, by what you've learned, thinking, pondering, working with yourself on what you know. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but no wisdom. And without wisdom, you can't operate properly. And he goes on to say about these initiates, well, he's going to talk about the first category now. The initiates belonging to the first category were those who, thanks to their intentional sufferings and conscious labours, attained to a high gradation of being. This is what we're going for. And for this, they acquired the title saint. To the second category belong those who, thanks to the same factors, acquired a great deal of all kinds of information, and to their names was added the title learned. And to the third category, those who by means of the same factors attained being and also enlightened themselves concerning a great number of objective truths, and to their names added the title sage. So if you want to be a saint, a learned being, or a sage, you need to work upon yourself. You need to go and study, experience. That's one of the most important things, experience, and do the pondering. Ponder, 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 feel, 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 act, act, act. And examine the results. Maybe not examine, is that the right word? It makes it sound like a big test. Experience it all and become aware of what it's doing to you. Feel the energies and vibrations change as you become hopefully wiser, hopefully more attuned, and hopefully more awake. Right, this is from Views from the Real World. Hold on. Here we go. Views from the Real World, page 78. We cannot change ourselves. We can only modify it. Oh, let me start again. Sorry. We cannot change ourselves. We can only modify ourselves a little, but we can be changed with help from the outside. And normally that help from the outside is, you know, studying these kind of books, Gurdjieff's books, other writings, Bible, Quran, esoteric teachings. Sometimes when you ask for help, as I said in a previous video, I think it's the one before this, you know, you can ask for help from your angels, from the gods, from your ancestors. You know, if you're trying to fathom the gist of Gurdjieff's work, ask Gurdjieff to help you, you know. Anyway, let me carry on. We cannot change ourselves. We can only modify ourselves a little, but we can be changed with help from the outside. The theory of esotericism is that mankind consists of two circles, a large outer circle embracing all human beings and a small circle of instructed and understanding people at the center. Real instruction, which alone can change us, can only come from this center, and the aim of this teaching is to help us to prepare ourselves to receive such instructions. And don't you feel that sometimes we are led by people that have no inner being, no understanding of how the world runs or the universe, and we just have the wrong people in charge? But if we had, I'm going to call them the priest kings, or the spiritually minded, or the learned beings that Gurdjieff mentions in charge, this world would not be the lunatic asylum that it is. Anyway, he continues on from Views from the Real World. By ourselves, we cannot change ourselves. That can only come from outside. Every religion points to the existence of a common center of knowledge. In every sacred book, knowledge is there, but people do not wish to know it. When we are ready for new knowledge, it will come to us. And I do believe in that myself. I know many people keep throwing at me, well, there's the old adage, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. But I really feel that was a Piscean age adage, and we're now going into the Aquarian age, and the teachings are there for us, but we have to go and do the knowledge. There are living teachers, I'm sure, that you could find, or living groups to go and be with. But the teachings are there, whether it's in book form, film form, video form, or other people doing shows, maybe like mine, probably explaining it a lot better than I do. It's out there, and you can take it in and go and ponder about it. You know, I suppose many of us grew up on the old TV show, oh, I've forgotten what it's called now, but with Grasshopper, and he goes and learns from his master. You know, I'd love to sit before a master and learn everything, but then again, part of me knows I'm a bit of a rebel. So would I have the patience to put myself to it and go and do it 24/7? You know, thankfully this works here for us to do it in the modern day, in the now, in the rat race that we live in, which is what Gurdjieff also said. You don't need to go to a monastery to learn all this. You don't need to go into a retreat. It's good to go and do for a little while, just to gather everything together that you've been learning for a year or whatever, take a week out somewhere. But he was trying to give a teaching so that you can live in this lunatic asylum of the world that we're in now, and how to survive that. Right, another book. I'm going to, oh no, still Views from the Real World, page 211. In the history of mankind, we see two parallel and independent lines of civilization, the esoteric and the exoteric. Inevitably, one of them overpowers the other and develops while the other fades. We might be in a bit of an exoteric time now, but us people, we can raise up and bring back the esoteric. A period of esoteric civilization comes when there are favorable external conditions, political and otherwise. Then knowledge, clothed in the form of a teaching corresponding to the conditions of time and place, becomes widely spread. Thus it was with Christianity. Christ too was a magician, a man of knowledge. He was not God, or rather he was God, but on a certain level. And I think in the late 1800s, there was a certain level of men and women that rose because the esoteric work needed to be brought out into the mainstream, because humanity's changing. We're on a pivotal point. We can go up or down, we can evolve or de-evolve. So that's why the esoteric, usually taught in the mystery schools, was brought out into the public for those with ears to hear. You know, we had Gurdjieff, we had Steiner, we had Blavatsky, Roerich, many others in that time, and going on into the 1900s, and probably still have today, you know, great teachers out there to try and help people wake up and learn what used to be occult knowledge, but is now being revealed. And I'm going to finish with a quote from, well, it's from C.S. Nott's books, but it's Araj speaking to Nott. A.R. Araj was one of Gurdjieff's main people. In fact, no, it's not. I'm talking absolute rubbish. It's Nott speaking to Ouspensky. Nott was speaking to Ouspensky, and he was saying, the Prairie, and the Prairie was the school that Gurdjieff started up in Paris, the Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man. It was just outside Paris, it's in Fontainebleau. Many people came there over the years. Even Aleister Crowley himself made a bit of an appearance there. That's another story. So Gurdjieff's trying to pass on the esoteric teaching to people and trying to help people develop. And Nott is speaking to Ouspensky, saying, the Priory was an esoteric school. Gurdjieff himself is, so to speak, an esoteric school. And I would agree with that. Gurdjieff went out and learnt everything he could from a young age. He went looking for knowledge, and he went looking for teachers to turn it into wisdom. He learned how to dance. He understood the sacred dances and what they meant, because a lot of knowledge is not just in books, it's in dancing, it's in movements, it's in some kind of performance. As many of you know, for example, we say that the parables of the Christ in the New Testament, they have many different meanings, exoteric, esoteric, and such like. And it's depending on your level of being, what you understand of that, of them parables or the esoteric teachings. So it's like there's one story given for everybody to listen to that thinks, oh, that's a nice story. And then those with ears to hear can understand the story that's underlying it all. Well, hopefully I've made that clear and I haven't made it too confusing for people. And, you know, as always, I'll try and do as many shows as I can. But whenever I say something like that, I end up not making anything for ages. But thank you for listening. I would just suggest to people that are still interested in this kind of thing, but are quite new to it. I have loads of shows on Gurdjieff and Steiner in my archive that you can go through and go over and hopefully explain in different ways, a bit deeper, the various subjects that one needs to be the spiritual warrior that one wants to be.